It's
Okay, let's get started.
all
I'm
right.
here today with my good friend Sava Nedev, who's in Bulgaria. It's a lovely young chap, fresh faced at 26 years of age, out there kicking ass, making big dollars, driving Ferraris, and traveling around enjoying life. So, Sava, you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. And as I was saying before we hit record, it's kind of crazy to think that we've known each other, online, possibly soon offline in real life as well.
About 4 years,
Probably 4 years.
maybe 3 years since 2020 at least.
Probably, yeah. And that's our first time actually talking like, on a not on the phone on Zoom and stuff, but yeah, it's all been voice notes and text, man. That's quite a way to break the streak, pattern interrupt.
So you got this cool looking thing behind you there. Like it looks like some kind of a trophy cabinet or a photo cabinet or what you got going on behind there.
It's kind of like both because I've got this is a painting of Kobe Bryant, my sister did from a
Mhm.
birthday the year when he passed away. Then below I have like some books. I guess you can only see the damn Bilzerian one, and now people are gonna think I'm a fuckboy. And then I don't know, below I have, yeah, let's keep the Playboy theme. I have some old like Playboys actually,
Mhm.
just collectibles. And yeah, I have Seneca and Machiavelli, so this must count. I'm not just someone who likes tits and ass.
And you live in Sofia, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Sofia, originally from the seaside, but I've been living here since 2017.
And what's it like there? Tell us a bit about your place.
It is the capital of Bulgaria. It's the biggest city. There's a lot to do. No, it's kind of, I like uh, to make the analogy that it's like London, in the sense that London is nothing like the rest of the UK, even
Hmm.
like something like Birmingham, which is the second biggest city, if not mistaken. And Sofia is the same way. If you go to the second biggest city in Bulgaria, it's nothing alike. You have the foreigners, it's super big. You have all the cool places, cool different places you can go to. Lots of flights, at least compared to other airports in the country. So it's great, I think, for a young person. Just all of this, let's say, European slash cosmopolitan influence from the
Hmm.
West is good. It's good because I can see the difference with friends, back home who decided to stay, the comfortable life. I don't know, man. You can tell the difference in the mindset. Just it's different.
Provincial living is very comfortable, but it does kind of, yeah, it takes the edge off. And that can be good, and it has its downsides too.
Yeah, I'm sure in your case it must be good, at least from every photo that you posted. It
Yeah,
sure
I'm
seems like you're enjoying it.
for me at this point in my life, like living rural countryside is good. I mean, we're now in a place where the kids like walk to school in the mornings, and it's so nice to go out to the front of the house, what take them to the corner, then they cross the road themselves, they check the traffic, and they walk off to school. It's not a long walk. It's maybe 500 meters, like half a kilometer to school. But I can see it's like very positive up till now. This year we were driving them everywhere and dropping them to the door. And that's fine, but it's just a nice little bit of independence that they do that little walk for 5 minutes to school every day by themselves, their daddy being there. It's teaching them to be self-reliant.
I think it's good too, because back in the day, it was like, oh, kids were playing on the streets, there was no smartphones, and I'm the generation where I didn't really grow up on playing on the streets, to be honest.
Oh,
Maybe a
okay.
little bit when I became 10, and my parents were kind of okay with me being outside without them watching. So I guess in that sense, provincial living must
Yeah.
be nice for them, definitely.
I grew up in the suburbs, and I was probably the last or second to last generation that did grow up playing on the street. Like I remember being 6, 7 years old and going wandering around the neighborhood with buddies. Like my parents knew generally where we were. We had boundaries. They'd say you can go this far, don't go further than that. You can go to this neighborhood, don't go to that neighborhood. But we could go wandering, and even like we would go to there's a big public park near our school. We would go wandering there after school. That was a little bit older, maybe 7, 8, 9. But we were allowed to do this stuff, and Now it's like nobody lets their kids use that stuff. And even me, like I'm a helicopter parent, like learning to let go with the walking to school thing has been hard for me. And I knew I needed to do it. I was like, you're too, you're going to smother those kids if you look after them too much. They have to stand on their own legs.
I know you're a good dad, so yeah, definitely a good decision.
Yeah. Well, being a good parent can still be like, oh, some parents are great parents. They're very loving, kind. They do all the right things, but they can be overbearing, where they don't give the child the freedom to test themselves, really, to do dangerous, crazy shit. And, like my boy loves doing dangerous, crazy shit. And sometimes I have to just bite my tongue and let him do it.
I mean, boys will do what boys do, so
Absolutely. And they should be encouraged to do dangerous, crazy shit once they're only putting themselves at risk and not others.
speaking of, maybe not super dangerous, but risky shit. 2020 was probably a turning point in terms of my finance career.
Hmm.
I was doing this internship at Mercedes here, just marketing one, but I've known about Ty Lopez and all the other guys for years before, but I could never get like a proper client, like 1,500 a month retainer, that sort of thing. So COVID hit. Of course, we were home office. There wasn't a lot of work. I've been following this sales guru on YouTube for a while. And I was like, I know he sells a high ticket offer. I'm broke. Let's say from the internship, I make 200 euros a month after
Hmm.
tax. And I get some allowance for my parents, but all I know, I'm bringing, I don't know, 500 euros a month tops, maybe 600. And this course, like the mentorship, it was back then 4,500 euros for 12 weeks. So I get on the sales call. I'm like, I'm just gonna push it and I'll try to reverse engineer, take notes, see what they're doing. An hour later, I'm in my Revolut just transferring rent money for 6 months ahead that I had from my parents
They were
for the
that
first
smooth.
payment. Yeah, for the first payment. And I
Love
was
it.
like, shit, because back against the wall, but it worked in my favor because so there was a 12-week course. And in week 10, by week 10, I had found my first three clients. And actually, by the second week, I found my first one. So by week 10, my first three clients, I paid my parents back the money, for the rent. I was like, you don't need to, help me with rent anymore. And I had paid off the course in advance in full.
Amazing.
And that's kind of like the turning point because, if we have to link it to, Iron John, like a man's journey and
Hmm.
everything, it's kind of like the rites of passage where you kind of, let's say you kind of figure out what you're made of. I mean, I was 23 back then, I'm 26 now, so it's definitely not that dramatic. I have way more to learn about myself. But maybe up until a certain point, um, I feel like a lot of men they kind of feel like scary little boys because you want to do all this shit, you want to be the superhero, but you don't really have the opportunity to try it. And I think that point I was like, all right, I mean, I can actually, do this. And at least to a certain extent, I am who I think I am. And, ever since then, like just investing in, courses, I, I've been looking at, I've been looking at it in a different way because I'm like, I know that the investment myself is going to give the best ROI. So it's been, I don't know, I think it's just nice for everyone to see what they're made of in a way.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's awesome. And in fact, I like typically start these conversations by asking people kind of, what do you, when was the first time you typed how to make money online into Google? But you kind of preempted that question. So
Uh,
was that like
actually, actually, never,
never? Okay.
never. Yeah. So 2020 was the sales course, but I knew about the, Ty Lopez online marketing stuff 3 years before that. So 2016, 2017, not a lot of people know, but I studied law in the UK in Exeter.
Okay.
Uh, it's a long story, but I got kicked out after first year, although I had I had two internships in London or whatever. And just in the summer, I signed up for uni here, but it wasn't law. I was just hanging out with some other friends who had dropped out. Some of them were doing drop shipping, others were just trying to launch some info products and whatnot. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, what would you recommend for me if I want to try it out? And one of them said that, copywriting is quite important and send me a free PDF of John Carlton's Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets. And I was hooked, man. Like, I've probably read this book 6 times between 2017 and, okay, last year. I haven't read it this year. And I kind of fell in love, I guess, because of law and, persuasion and words and everything. I just felt some connection with it. But then the first 2 years of digital marketing bids, just watching courses or trying something, I tried almost everything without design. I've done email marketing, I've done Facebook ads, Google ads, a bit of funnel work, but oh no, copywriting, especially email, I figured that's what I enjoyed the most. And the first 2 years were just figuring out, having my studies, doing it on the side, not really bothering about it. But then 2020, I was like, okay, it's time. Like, I don't want a regular job, like lockdowns and shit. Like, what the fuck? And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to actually grab myself by the balls and make something happen. I was
And
like, I
that
don't want to be caught in a lockdown ever again.
and that first time you were closing, you were working as a telephone closer, is that right?
No, I actually did it because I could see that I had trouble finding clients, even for copy work or just any marketing work. And this guy, he was like, he was saying that his high ticket courses for closing via Zoom, clients. It wasn't freelance specific, but it was quite close for what I wanted to do. So I just enrolled in his program and took what I could find beneficial for me,
Ah,
applied it.
okay.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like sales training to sell other services and
Sales
products.
training, yeah, it wasn't phone closing or anything. I've never done it. But yeah, it was just the sales training. I was like, I can read all the copybooks, work on my skills in a vacuum. But if I don't have the clients that I want, if I have just clients that pay me $100 a month, then I'm not really gonna get somewhere. I was like, I need that 1.5K retainer to start, to
Mhm.
something actually serious.
Yeah,
So that's what pushed me.
being a working copywriter is kind of like being a jockey. You need a good horse to ride. You got some
Absolutely.
three-legged mangy horse, you going nowhere.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Different clients, they don't have the same assets, they don't have the same infrastructure, they don't have the same amount of offers. Even when you're a beginner copywriter, in a way, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're working for someone who can afford to pay you just $300 a month. You're not gonna get far. It's just there is no volume, there is no like enough data. So yeah.
Yes. I think though, for people early on, like the level of your client is reflective of the level of your understanding. You know, as a beginner, you and that not for everybody. Some people are in the right situation, they meet the right person, they get an opportunity to intern or to be mentored by somebody who's already quite experienced and successful. But for people coming in with not much experience, starting out, maybe you go work at an agency for a while, maybe you go do Upwork or Fiverr. But early days, like the level of the client is dependent on the level of your capability as well and your understanding. Because even the understanding of the difference between a good and a bad client, like at this point now, for me, what matters in a client really is momentum. Do they have momentum? If they have momentum, I can help. If they don't have momentum or their momentum seems to be failing or stalling, I probably can't help them because that comes from within. That's their own thing. Without their own internal momentum, there's nothing really anybody else can do for them. At least that's my belief. But early days, I think when I would lacked experience, I wouldn't have understood that concept. It took time, took some mistakes made to figure it all out.
No, I do agree. And it's part of, the natural evolution of the online marketer, especially if you're doing it as a service or as a freelancer. that in an ideal case, ideal scenario for anyone starting out, yeah, it's fine to get a client that pays you a few $100, but if you can maybe get a junior copywriter position somewhere with someone who you know
Mm-hmm.
is quite badass, I think it's gold because I think it was 2021. You know, I was already decent. I wasn't bad, but I certainly wasn't at the level I'm at now. And just all because of a cold email, I was the writing the emails like junior copywriter position for strategic profits for still winners. There's like rich reference
Oh yeah, I remember
thing.
that. I've heard of that. I haven't ever subscribed to it, but I know. But it's very well regarded.
Yeah, and the managing partner, Matt Risby, he is a former Agora copywriter. I think he was writing with Stansbury. I'm
I've
not,
heard his name. Don't know him personally, but he's a known name in the business.
yeah. And he liked my outreach message and my samples. And we did a lot of copy chiefing. Like it wasn't it was like a year long experience. It was a few months, but it was very very helpful. Even to just have a mentor who kind of gives you the confirmation bias that you're doing the right things
Mm-hmm.
and just need the reps. This by itself is beneficial, but then you have someone who used to work at Agora, and this guy, because not a lot of people do it, he can literally copy talk. Let's say he's telling me how to edit this email. He doesn't go in the doc and we are on Zoom just, but he's like, okay, write this down, and he's kind of like dictating and speaking copy. It was like fascinating to see. It's like to this day, I haven't seen anyone do it better than him.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like if you can get that person in your life in early on to help you, it's a huge leg up. I think what a lot of people don't realize when they're getting started is that people who are already established actually are usually we've almost all had an experience of somebody taking the time and making an effort to help us out that we didn't pay just because they were a good person. And I think most people who have that experience on some level want to pay that forward and help somebody else. Almost everybody.
Could be, yeah, because I have some freelance friends. They're not
Yeah.
copywriters, but they ask me for client getting advice, and I'm always happy to help them. Always tell them read Nothing Held Back, like the Facebook group, because just this alone is gonna just expand your marketing mind.
Mm-hmm.
And even right now, so earlier this year I hired just for a VSL, just for a guy to mentor me on the VSL. It was supposed to be 1.5 months to 2 months, but then he took a liking to me, and so we started in April. Now it's end of September. He's still coaching me. We're getting on Zoom a few times a month for free. He was like, I feel like I can help you even more. Like I haven't paid him past the second month mark, and it's for sure I can see what you're talking about, and it can still happen. It's amazing, but of course you have to find the right person. Not everyone is not everyone can be as lucky.
No, but in terms of like disproportionately good versus bad outcomes, cold email is probably one of the best things you can bloody do, right? I mean, if like the worst that happens is somebody ignores you, occasionally someone will send back a salty message. That almost never happens. But the best thing that can happen is you meet somebody who essentially helps you change your life.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, it was a cold email that got me to write Danlog's Facebook ads for a year.
Didn't know you did that.
No, I thought I told you this.
Maybe you did, but look, I
Maybe
forget
you didn't
things.
know it was a cold email.
I didn't know it was a cold email, but I actually didn't think I knew you wrote for Dan Locke either. There's so many guys who got a good start with Dan Locke, like
Yeah.
Dan, Ed, Ray, who else? Matthew Volquin. Did you work with
Yeah,
those guys when
I
you were
think I
there?
was right after Matthew because they were doing a bigger restructuring. So funny enough, when I sent, Matt Risby the cold email, the guy
Mm-hmm.
who works at Agora, I sent the same pitch, of course, personalized to Dan. And Dan replied, right now we have no need, but there might be a bigger restructure later in the year. Like, could you just share your, just my rates so he can put in my information? I was like, was like, yeah, cool. And in my mind, I was like, he's probably not gonna come back. And then almost a year later, I think like 10 months, I get an email out of the blue from Downlock. It's like, hey, do you still have the bandwidth? We're restructuring. Do you want to do the test? The test was one Facebook ad. If I like your ad, you can come on the team. He liked my ad, and yeah, then for 1 year I will write the Facebook ads. It's quite cool.
Amazing. So like nowadays, what type of things do you write for? What kinds of offers? What kinds of businesses hire you?
So right now, apart from finances, I cover the rest. Like I work for a high ticket, business guy. I do all of the emails and I copy chief the VSLs. Um, I do all of the emails and some of the new VSLs for a dating offer. They have multiple info products. Then for the same guy, because he has 4 businesses, I write the emails for the fitness business. Not all of them. We do like a 70 to 30%, 70-30 split with another guy. And then my fourth client is in health, like big company. They have constipation products and kettle shakes and stuff. Again, email. So I would say in terms of retainers is very short form based, but on the side, I might, for example, today I just wrapped up a sales page for a info product in art, in art niche.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's on the side I can do long form, but in terms of consistent, it's all about the short form.
Yeah. And this is, I think, why, starting out and even for people to make their whole career out of it, why email is so valuable. It's like endless need, endless need. Your customer always needs more every month. Whereas the sales page, maybe they need it. The bigger companies need them a few times a year, but most companies, if they have a good offer and it's pretty mature, they might need it once, twice a year with some split tests every month. But most places don't even implement that much in the way of split testing. They just find something that works and ride it home as far as they can. But email
Yeah.
is like never ending, right?
Yep. And because, for example, even if we compare it with Facebook ads, because it's the other, famous short form retainer gig. For example, Downlock. So we know, we're still working together because essentially, for the time being, they didn't need more ads. Because even businesses, even big ones, let's say if they're converting or maybe they're just doing variation split testing, they don't need more ads. Whereas email, the old Ben Seto, Matt Fury thing, an email a day or like 5 emails a week. This because you can't run multiple emails at the same time. You can't split test the same way like with Facebook ads. So there's always a need for emails. Always. It's never gonna die. Facebook ads are never gonna die. So it's just, well, what are you gonna do? By the way, YouTube ads, because I see a lot of people like, oh, I wrote this YouTube ad, YouTube ad retainer. Man, YouTube ads, just because of the time element, production, it's actually not a great retainer by itself if the production team isn't dialed in. So I wrote a lot of the YouTube and some of the Facebook ads for this great company, high ticket, 8-figure offer. But the thing is, the exact time when I got in, their old videographer and editor, they quit, and it took them a few months. And then so it happened. We would work for 6 months, and I think by the end they had only produced a few of my ads just because of the editor, nowhere to be found. And it kind of sucked because I wrote so many YouTube ads, but 90% of them never saw the light of day. And it's production about YouTube ads is very you have to vet the potential clients a lot for you to be sure. If they can't produce your ad, even if they like your copy, at some point they're not gonna need you. They're gonna realize, we're paying him so much money or her, we're paying so much money, but we're just not producing. So it's like, yeah, it's great copy, but the ad isn't getting produced. So the actual ROI, like the exchange of energy, it gets lost. And it's not on the copywriter because that's up for the client to figure out, but it pays literally to vet a potential YouTube ad gig.
Yeah, I think it's those situations. It's nobody's fault, but it's true. As soon as the client doesn't feel like that they're getting a lot more value than they're paying for, it's very hard for them to justify to continue giving you money. And I'm always like, whenever I'm working with a client, aware of that value trade, that there always has to be a perception on their side that they're getting more than what they paid for, or it'll be things change. Things change.
And just to shift the topic a bit to, client getting, because I don't know, I've been getting a lot of questions, just people asking me. I mean, today I was telling someone.
Standing like a real guru here, Sava.
Yeah, no, actually,
a lot of people ask me.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, the moment I said it, I was like, fuck, like everyone says this in the email, I was post. But it's true today, you know him, Fotis, the Greek guy.
Yeah, lovely guy.
He asked me, how they go about finding clients, as a non-native English speaker. And I was telling him, bro, there is no one method. As in, first when I started out, I still have the spreadsheet of 3,600 names just from Instagram. And this was the first year or two. But then it stopped working for, I don't know, whatever reason. Then I would do Facebook groups, job boards, masterminds. The last year has been referrals, cold email, and bar LinkedIn. I tried everything, and bar LinkedIn and running ads to my website. So it's like, there is no one way. It just, you gotta try them all, I feel.
Yeah, and you really should have more than one coming in. I mean, I definitely over rely on this kind of networking and referrals, but and it's good. But then I always think like I'm just coasting on easy mode all the time. I should really step it up a notch and be a bit more aggressive.
But do you need to? Because you're doing damn fine.
I'm doing okay. You can always do better. It's once you have kids, man, like it's a bottomless, like there's no bottom at that point. Like there's always more stuff that needs to be got and done. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole different subject. But yeah, the client getting thing is like everyone wants to know. And it's funny, like the number of times I get DMs from people. Again, I'm doing that. People always ask me.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything.
People do message me regularly saying, "Hey, have you got any clients? Have you got any referrals for me?" And the smart ones say, "Hey, John, I want to pay you some money for some referrals. If you got any referrals." And if I have a referral, I'll send them a referral. And the less smart ones just sort of say, "Have you got any clients for me?" And I'm like, well, like, you might be a nice person, but like if you are somebody who actually is aiming to persuade people for a living, then when you try to persuade someone to give you something, you have to actually make it seem like it's in their best interest. And if you haven't even bothered to try doing that when you've asked me to give you something, then I have to assume that maybe you don't actually take this whole persuasion thing as seriously as you should.
Yeah, it's kind of entitled.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit entitled. For me, it's like it's a negligence of professional responsibility. If your job is to persuade people for a living, then you should be a persuasive person all the time.
Perhaps, this is one thing that I don't agree with, when people say, oh, I see everything as copywriting. Man, when I'm talking to my friends, or even because I've asked you if you know someone, I mean, not the same way, do you have clients, but just if you happen to know someone within this niche or whatever. And I wasn't thinking, let me persuade John, because I'm like, no, we're good, we're buddies. But it's
but you did the work up front.
Fair enough.
You made an effort to get to know me a little bit before you ever asked me for anything, and that's what people do. Like that is persuasion. It's everyday persuasion, but it's still persuasion. It's persuading people to think, hey, I like this person. Yeah. He's a good person. He's got the right attitude. He's got some values. He's a solid dude. I'm happy to engage with him and be friendly with him. That is persuasion. It's just kind of longer term persuasion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same thing we were talking about, like try to persuade a person like right now. I'm like, you're cool. Like, I like what you post. I'm gonna engage regardless if I'm gonna get something in return.
Yes.
Actually, I mean, because we've known each other, on Facebook for so many years. You know that I don't post any shit, like at all, especially about business. Like, I'm all about just engaging with other people just from time to time. And I see all these people, the someone had coined a great term about it, like passive organic marketing. Like, let's say someone like a value post, but they're actually gassing themselves up. And I'm like,
Hmm.
bro, this is like, mental masturbation. You're just like, like, why? I'm like, if I feel like I have something to say, I'm not gonna post it on my own newsfeed. I think maybe a few times a year I'll post and nothing held back, or before I'll post in Copy Accelerator when it's of value. But I probably do less than 10 of these posts a year. So it's like I never and I know I'm potentially missing out on a lot of business. Like what you're doing is way better, but I feel many people get this organic posting thing wrong. It's like, man, it's obvious what you're doing. Stop. Allow it.
Allow it. Yeah, the thing is like people try to be authoritative when they manifestly have no experience, and that doesn't work. You go to somebody's paid group or even their free group, and there's the person who set the group up and is like delivering content and teaching lessons and stuff. That person can create authoritative content because they've signaled their authority by setting up the group, encouraging people to join. People have joined. Like you use the example of Nothing Held Back. There's like what 14,000 members in there. Clearly, the person who set that up has something to say that people value. Otherwise, nobody would have showed up. So they naturally have that authority because the numbers right there on the screen. Like Colin, like the Cult of Copy job board that has like 50,000 members now. But clearly, somebody who the man who created that has some authority, because otherwise, why would 50,000 people show up in his Facebook group? So, but like people just posting, yeah, like stuff that's meant to be authoritative or kind of um like you know stuff that's trying to, yeah, like you say, value posting, for want of a better phrase, because it's not a great one, but it's true. It's going nowhere. And I mean, I will occasionally share something like that I found interesting or I thought people find interesting about work, but most of the stuff I post is just about life and values, because I know that's what more often than not brings people, that starts conversations with people. People
Yeah.
like Ireland, people like have kids, this kind of stuff, just
Yeah.
everyday stuff.
I feel like probably you and Mike Samuels,
Yeah.
like, the greatest post, because it's obvious you guys know your shit, but it's like you share like personal stuff. It's not, because also the other thing is when you see all these people value posting only things related about business, freelancing, or whatever the fuck they're doing. I'm like, bro, if you have time for 10 Facebook posts in a day, when do you actually work and apply it? Because let me tell you, so my biggest client, the guy where I write for his dating business and his fitness business,
Hmm.
two other health businesses. The guy, most of, for example, Justin Goff knows him. Some of the other, Alan knows him, I think. But I don't think he even has Facebook, or maybe doesn't use it. He has an Instagram account for photography, but he posts once a year. He doesn't go to events. He doesn't participate in masterminds. Yeah, the guy is making, I think, something like 20 to 30 million a year in revenue from all of the businesses. I'm like, he doesn't, because I see it all the time. He has so many different moving pieces between the companies. Like, the guy has no time to, because he also has a kid
Hmm.
and doesn't have time to like sit on Facebook and post. And very often, because I get, no, okay, I don't want to say very often, like, just this is like parasite guru like phrases. But you see someone who posts authoritative stuff, and maybe some of it is good, but they post so much, and maybe this one time you talk with them in the DMs, or you find out from someone else how much they're actually making. you know like and you're like, wait, you post all of this and you're only making this? Like, I don't want to sound condescending, but bro, you have a bigger fish to fry than posting on Facebook all day long.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if you're doing like the talk about, you know, six figure this, six figure that, and you're making 5K a month, what? Like, no. Like, no. Like, even now, it's been a while since I've only been making 5K a month, but even now, I don't feel, qualified to value post. I'm like, there's all these like genius guys out there. I'm like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane, I'm just gonna stay in my lane. I think that's very important. And people get it confused. I don't think they actually mean bad when they value post, but bro, stay in your lane. Like, recognize who you are.
Yeah, it's I've definitely found like this year just starting to realize how much is really out there and what level of stuff has gone, because you get into this business and it's a really friendly like industry, but you can become quite insular and not realize how much of a bigger world is out there, and what seems like a big deal in this space is really a small deal in a lot of business, a lot of industries. Even everyday stuff like, you know everyday stuff like that people do with like buying real estate and with construction, even everyday retail type businesses. People, there's people out there making plenty of money, and they're not bragging about it on social media. Like most of the time, when it's someone's bragging loudly about money on social media, it's to create perceived authority or perceived success, so that they can actually present an offer and sell with, basically to give credibility and some sort of implied proof to what they've got to offer.
I agree. And there's this, I remember in the beginning when I discovered Nothing Held Back, and especially when Alan started shifting the conversation away from copywriting. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
99% of commerce exists without direct response copywriting. And it's so indicative because here in Bulgaria, there's probably a few guys who do online marketing in Bulgaria, and they make seven figures. But then you have all of these, I mean, granted, you have some former mafia guys, whatever, but you have legit business guys who, they're in the needs, not wants business. Like if you have a grocery store chain or whatever, and he's making 50, 100 million a year in revenue, and he doesn't, he doesn't know rat's ass about running Facebook ads, but, he's making 50 mil. Granted, maybe 10% margin, profit margin, because it's retail, but man, 5 million a year profit without knowing anything about marketing or not being a marketing genius. It's like, I would make the trade. I would prefer to forget everything about direct response and just have all of these like real world offline retail, like, let's say, brick and mortar business knowledge. Because
Mm-hmm.
in a way, in a in a not so advanced society, it's maybe more beneficial. Of course, direct response marketing, you have lots of skills that translate to other areas just because you understand the psychology. But in terms of being in the trenches, it's a different ball game. So it's the echo chamber thing I think you are getting at. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely real. So I try not to read marketing posts on Facebook, at least.
Yeah, when you think about like how difficult it was even 20 to 30 years ago for people to start any kind of a business, and how difficult it is even now for people to start offline businesses, then it's like, and then compared to how relatively easy and simple and how few moving pieces there are to the kind of things that we do, like freelancing online. And yeah, I mean, you can have more complex online business that has more of a fulfillment element to it, and team building and all those things as well. But for the most part, they're all like an order of magnitude less moving parts in most online business than there are in offline world. Less friction, less third party stuff that you don't have to worry about. And yet people still make great success. So yeah, all the things we do are great. They're fantastic. They're wonderful, but maybe not as, copywriters being the people who write about things and promote things with words tend to, like, you know, they go sometimes to the more to the bullshit side of the hype meter. And then and when you start to believe your own bullshit, that's when things can go kind of a little bit wrong.
Yeah, and that's the, with hype copywriting or just online marketing, what you said about fulfillment, exactly, because fulfillment is, a relatively small side of the business, especially compared to an offline business.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why a lot of times, for example, when Mike runs his, ads for his coaching or whatever it is, he gets comments
Yes.
like, "Oh, that's a scam," whatever. I mean, it seems like a scam because people have been burned, but then maybe you go to the supermarket one day, you buy toilet paper that is supposed to be 3 layers, but it's only 1 layer, and it rips when you're doing the business. That's a scam too. But you're not really gonna go on their Facebook page. You're not gonna go on their Facebook page and say, "Oh, you guys scammed me. Like you should come clean my hands now." It's like it's exactly because of the fulfillment element. Because when it's not physical, when it's not in front of you, when you don't see it, there's a higher expectation of what you're supposed to get.
Do people around you where you live in Sofia, do people have any clue what it is that you're doing or the business you're in? Or is this one of these things you just don't talk about it too much?
Oh, I do. Like my friends, my family, like they know. Some of my friends, they get into it, maybe not copywriting, but just online stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the young ones, they understand. My parents, they also kind of understand, maybe not fully. But in terms of the general populace, I usually just say I'm in digital marketing, I write ads, that sort of stuff. So they can easily understand.
Okay. Got
But
it.
if I tell someone, yeah, I wrote a VSL today or a video sales letter, like, you wrote a lot. You wrote what?
What?
Yeah. Like they have no clue. So in terms of the terms and the specifics, no, but just general, oh, I do digital marketing, then it's fine. They kind of get it.
You work with pretty much all clients in the US, right?
Um the
And Canada.
the high ticket business guy, they
Yeah.
sell to Americans and Western Europeans, but he's European. His company is I invoice to Cyprus.
Okay.
He's from Austria, but yeah, still it's not an American business, but they sell to Americans, so same thing, I guess. I've worked with some UK people, but yeah, I don't really work with, let's say, EU, like
Mm-hmm.
not native English speakers.
And I mean, like you speak, crisp, clear, like educated English. But at the same time, I mean, people can tell you're a European guy. You're not an American. You're not British. And have you found that's been any kind of impediment to you so far in your career?
Never. I think in the beginning when I was doing a lot of outreach, maybe I would get people that say, they're worried about their voice, like native speaker, whatnot. But also that's while it might be a limiting belief of their own, it's also when you're starting out, maybe my cold message isn't as refined. So they can tell I don't have the experience. So they give me kind of like a bullshit rejection. But I haven't got the language objection in, I don't know, maybe 2 years, or
Yeah.
I don't remember. So I think it's also about how you come across, because today, if I have to send a cold email, I can rely on my experience, maybe some results, the people I've worked with way more. So, the proof element, it kind of compensates for it. They're like, oh, okay, he's written Facebook ads for Alex Hormozio for Dan Locke. They're not gonna think about the language at all.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have, I am a native English speaker. I used to get the not local objection every now and again. But like the last time I got that not local objection, like from somebody in the US that we prefer to hire within the US, That was like 2019. Since COVID, that objection disappeared. I never heard it again after COVID because everyone got used to it. Like, well, everyone's at home anyway. It doesn't matter where the hell we hire from now because nobody's coming into the office. And it changed everything. But a lot of people think this is going to be an objection, and it's really not. Now, if people read your writing before they hear your voice and your writing is good, then they won't care. But when people, like, you see some of those listings in job boards or whatever, people say, oh, needs to be a native speaker only. Some people will straight away think, oh, I have to handle that objection. No, you don't. You just need to skate past it or ignore it. Just send them some writing. If the writing's good, they'll assume you're a native speaker anyway. And by the time they get to talk to you, they won't even care that you're not.
I've, you know, besides the language, sometimes I've seen people post 5 years of, experience working XYZ. But I'm like, maybe I don't have 5 years, but I knew I had a few, recognizable names as past clients. It's like, I don't care, I'll just throw in these names, and next thing you know, I get an interview.
Yeah.
So I don't really, because I kind of see these, let's say, limiting beliefs, or kind of like just a bit of bullshit requirements, if that makes sense.
Yes. Now you've got to a point where you've got some serious social proof. Like, you've got social proof I'm envious of. You've got names like Alex Hormozy on your CV, which is real serious shit nowadays. You worked for him before he got really massive, though, right?
Yeah. So I wrote, I mean, I didn't write a whole bunch of Facebook ads. It wasn't like a year-long commitment or anything, but it was. So it's funny. It was right around the time when he sold his parts. I mean, the majority. I think he sold 45% or something of Gym Launch. So I was writing the Facebook ads when the new guy was the face and everything. But it started with a cold email to Alex, which he forwarded to his marketing director, who got in touch with me. But then there was a big delay. I did some test ads for them. Then they disappeared, and then they came back, asked me to write X amount. And, the marketing director apologized. Hey, we were in the middle of, Alex selling his stake. Sorry for this, yada, yada. Yeah, it was right before he got super big. And same thing with Andrew Tate, because I had.
Damn, you wrote. I forgot that you wrote for Tate. Jesus Christ!
I mean,
that's Dan Locke, it's Tate, Hormozy. That's some big names, man.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Tate, it wasn't worked. So I still am in the war room. And I even met him. I've had dinner with the guy. And then in the copywriting, because there's in the war room, you talk a lot of, there's business, there's different elements. And in business, from the war room, from the leadership, they posted that they're looking to come up with an official sales page for the war room, not just how they had it on the website as a shop. Like, I remember how people join the war room is you click on like a Shopify type of page where you have 5 sentences of copy, and then you see a price tag of 5K. So they wanted to have like the first official sales page, and was supposed to be like first you submit like your initial idea, draft, whatever. Me and 5 other guys did it, and the admin of the war room, he liked my entry the most. Then we developed the sales page, and I know some of the other guys, they ran affiliate traffic to it to get commission. So it ran for a while. But yeah, this was again the year before he really blew up. So this was like 2021, end of 2021.
Doesn't matter with these things, right? It's like once you've got a couple of names like that on your portfolio, it's social proof that you can use for the rest of your career.
Yep. And I am using them. And there's others too, just like, but yeah, it's cool. Like, but again, like a lot of people, they wouldn't even think about cold emailing Alex Hormozy, or Dan Locke. But I'm like, when you have in total probably 4,000 names you've outreached, I'm not outreaching to brokies and wannabe influencers. You know,
Yes.
I'll go for the big guys, and I'll go for the big guys who I see are running, who I see know about marketing, online marketing. Because, you know, I remember probably the one of the few times I've asked you for clients, I think I've always asked you about fitness guys. And what I found was that the majority of the Instagram, YouTubers, whatever, they're super clueless about funnels. They just care about sponsorships, their training app, whatever, and they do it in a very vanilla way. Like they're not sophisticated clients. So I haven't had success with with a lot of sophisticated clients in the fitness niche. So again, if you're gonna go for someone in fitness, it makes sense to go for someone who's very like high up, like Vishret or Kinobody, because
Mm-hmm.
they know what they're doing. If you're gonna go for the guy who, you know, just got 200,000 subscribers, they don't have even one funnel, and they're enjoying the clout and the fame. They're not. They're probably not gonna know what copywriting is, even as a word.
The thing though is, and this, you could like dropped a couple of very relevant examples there, is like if you've got a really good name built for yourself, you kind of don't need it anymore. Tate's a great example. Now, lately I've seen he's put out some VSLs as he's launched new programs, and he's become more sophisticated with the kind of quality of production of marketing assets he puts out.
It's not him.
It's not him.
It's it's affiliate for Hustlers University or the real world.
So people in his orbit are creating marketing assets for him because they know his brand is enough pull that they can make a lot of money off us.
Yeah, so that's how he blew up on TikTok last year.
Yes.
So you know, you enter Hustlers University. Maybe you don't like any of the wealth creation ways they have. So the one that everyone can do is you just start cutting clips of him.
Yes.
You put it online, and then you have an affiliate link for people to join Hustlers University.
Yes.
So I've also been seeing some Facebook ads of him, but it's on him creating it. Again, it's an affiliate for the real world.
I meant
So
more like when you click through and you see some of the actual sales pages, he actually does have, sales pages that are competent and like professionally created sales pages
yeah,
and VSLs nowadays. But like I remember seeing some of his stuff 2 years ago, and it was complete amateur hour. Like there was very little copy. It was just like, yeah, it was like an e-commerce store. It wasn't really like long form
yeah.
sales pages. He didn't have proper VSLs, didn't have much in the way of a paid traffic funnel. It was really all just organic traffic.
And
But it didn't care because the guy just was so relentless about creating organic content that he just had all the traffic he needed, and he built a
and
strong personal brand.
and the organic content, because when I tell you it's affiliates creating the VSLs and everything,
Mm-hmm.
because you know in some of the videos Tate uploads, maybe there's a 3 minute section where he pitches whatever the product is. So they just grab this. Maybe they grab a few other clips where he talks about the same thing from other videos, and it looks like a coherent VSL, but it's not actually him. It's like it's assembled from an affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there was so much content and he's been so relentless, now it's got to the point where it looks sophisticated, but it's not even him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of those guys that he didn't really need. I mean, he's always had an email list, but he didn't really need to have that sophisticated marketing because he was just absolutely just everywhere, and he built a strong personal brand that people resonated with, and that was enough. What's that guy? I mean, not V-Shred, because V-Shred are the complete opposite. They're an extremely sophisticated marketing machine. Like there's nothing organic about them. It's a creation. Like everyone thinks Vince is V-Shred, but Vince is like he's a spokesperson for a
Yeah.
whole team of like really, really aggressive copywriters who are just trying new ideas every day of the week.
No, visualize they're unmatched,
Yes.
especially in fitness.
But the other example that you mentioned was that guy, Greg O'Gallagher. What does he call himself? Kino
Yeah,
Body?
nobody, yeah.
And
Greg,
like, I mean,
yeah.
he has great concepts. Like his movies, of all the different offers in fitness, I think of all of them, movie star body is just such an amazing concept because like everything is contained in the name. Like the offer is contained in the
Yeah.
name, the future identity, the aspiration, like everything is just, it's such a information dense 3 words. And like that was his kind of bit of brilliance. But for the longest time, he didn't have like a high ticket program. He just sold some low ticket courses. He didn't have any really sophisticated marketing assets at all. He was really just one guy. And I think it's only in the last 18 months or so that he got professional marketers in to help him monetize better. Again, just
I,
great personal brand.
yeah, I think so. And lately, he's also been going on more business type podcasts, which I've been watching. And he said that, no, I think his newest supplement is Kino Mojo. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think it has something to do with testosterone. I'm not
Of
sure.
course it does.
But he talked that when he creates products, be it a program, excuse me, or a supplement, he always thinks about the name. For him, the name is the most important. And Kino Mojo, like think about it, is the mojo, more energy, like more
Mm-hmm.
power. It's like more vigor when he was explaining Kino Mojo, Mojo. It's like, I know, it's great. It's a great name. And I think, I'm not sure, but I had someone, I think it was someone who used to work or still works for him, but I think he's reached a point, or maybe had a streak where he made 10 million per month for a few months.
It's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
The other guy who blew me away recently is, I don't know, he's kind of tangentially, he's on the edges of fitness as well. Is that Derek guy? More plates, more dates. You know him? He's got that
Uh,
YouTube channel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've watched his videos.
And I just thought he was like a YouTuber making videos. And it's like so funny, but like I watched him recently on talking on a podcast, and like so many interesting things. Like he's got this really tight angle, like little cubby hole, kind of looks like a little, it like looks like a home office inside a wardrobe or something like that, inside a closet.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's kind of like he was talking about that. That's his like workspace from the place he used to live in. And he said when he moved house, he just didn't want to mess with like the vibe that people like the vibe of him in this little tiny space with the camera right up in his face. So he moved everything and he recreated it in the new place he lives in just to keep the vibe the same.
Yeah, I've heard other YouTubers doing it as well. I think one of the first guys who was talking about personal finance, Graham Stephan,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not,
Yes.
but I remember when he moved from LA to Vegas, he basically created in his garage the same kind of studio background and colors and everything that he had back in LA. Just same thing. He didn't want to mess with the aesthetics. And it's funny because YouTubers especially, they buy these expensive cameras, the gear and everything, like the big lights. This guy, just because he doesn't want to mess with anything, he puts like a basic ring light, and to dim it, he puts a towel. Like he literally puts like photos of it. And it's like super ghetto setup, but it works. The guy has now even his second channel more than 1 million subscribers. I think he makes around 7 million a year or something. It's crazy.
The guys who are smart know that the connection is with the audience is everything. It doesn't matter if it looks super professional or not. It's, do people actually care enough to keep watching? And the minute it starts to feel too professional and too polished, a lot of people will start to feel like this ain't, what I signed up for. This ain't so as authentic as it used to be. And like the one that blew me away was with Derek was like, he's actually, his real business is the supplement business. He's got like, his business is doing something like 100 million a year or something like that. But he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't brag about it because he knows, his audience of like young guys who tune in to find out what celebrities are on steroids basically is like, they don't want to, they want Derek to be a relatable dude. So he just doesn't brag about it, but he's incredibly successful in the background.
I didn't know he has a supplement company.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I saw him talking with Sam Parr on My First Million a while back.
I've watched a few or so episodes of My First Million, but wait, but I assume Derek isn't the face of the supplement
I,
business.
I, I think he actually is, or at least some way he's got something. I think he calls it Gorilla Mind, another another good name.
I've heard of this, but I guess it
Yeah,
didn't know it's him and that it's so successful. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, clearly he's
that's
going to
awesome.
have partners in the manufacturing and distribution side, but yeah, it's just incredible. Like just people being again being super successful, being low key about it, and this kind of comes back to what you said earlier on about like a lot of what you see is just for show, and it's just to bring you in. I mean, this is one of the things Alan said as well, like about the direct response business and masterminds and coaching programs and all of these kinds of things. He talked about someone who had mentored him years ago saying that it's the industry is often less like a corporation and more like a boxing promotion. If you think about it from the perspective of like not how would Jeff Bezos do it, but how would Don King do it, that's kind of a better fit for the style of business that people do.
Absolutely, I can see it. Because I remember, okay, maybe okay, we're not gonna mention names. You're gonna know what I'm talking about, and probably the people watching.
Yes.
There was maybe last year, I don't remember. There was this funnel, that was making a 250,000 a day or something, and then it was labeled the 3 million a day funnel. So the 3 million a month funnel.
Okay.
Then if you do the math, it means supposedly the company is making 30 million, right? Or at least
Mm-hmm.
8 figures a year. And I remember maybe late last year or early this year, I saw that they were looking for, I don't know, some position to fill in on the job board. And in the section about us, I was expecting to see, yeah, we were an 8 figure company or whatever. And then I see the guy said, we're a multi 7 figure company trying to hit 8 figures. And I was like, wow. So just because they had one good month or two and it was a 3 million a month company or like funnel, and it turns out you're not even making 8 figures a year. I'm like, man, granted, he's in an industry that's volatile. So it's hard to sustain it. But the same thing about Don King versus Jeff Bezos. It's like people are gonna quote their record month as per month,
Yes.
which it's misleading, more or less.
Yes, but that's the nature of the business. It's like a promoter's business, and I think it's like you walk in and you can be very naive at the beginning, and a lot of the time when people are saying things to you, like the classic one is where people say, "I'm not trying to impress you, but just to show what's possible," and it's like, no, 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 please, you are trying to impress me. You're trying to make me switch off my critical faculty here, so I'll take the rest of what you say without like filtering it or treating it with appropriate skepticism. And that's fine. And like that's just part of the game. But when you come in early the first year or two, it can be easy to be very, very naive and not see uh, what's real and what's maybe not so real. And like for people who are earlier on, it's like sort of don't believe most of what people say or even a lot of what you see.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, the natural, if you have to tie it back to copywriting, the natural evolution of a copywriter is you're fresh, you see all of this hype, all the promotion, so your copy style kind of reflects it. But then as you kind of, you start seeing the bullshit, you kind of, you start getting skeptical, your copy style also kind of relaxes. You use less hype, more so about just calm, authoritative, grounded language. And I think that's also very indicative. Now, of course, the caveat here is if it's a launch or a special promo, like for a few days, you do want to, pepper in the hype because the nature of the promotion. But in general, if we take just the daily email kind of thing, there is no hype if you're an experienced copywriter. It's about the value prop and how you can help people. There is no hard sell.
Yes, I help people. I've seen this. There's a friend of mine who works for a supplement company, and they're one of those companies that sell all the organs, like they sell liver capsules and beef testicles and all that kind of stuff. And like they've come to a point now where they're like, they have a great product line, people love it. So their email list is stories and long form education. So they actually like do deeply research stuff and put out the newsletter once a month, where they'll go in depth into their product formulation, why they made it that way, what benefits it's got, lots of different case studies of people who've used it and seen benefit from it. And it's nothing like a typical marketing message, but it works really, really well for them. And that's because that's what their people have come to expect and want from them. That's what their buyer wants. And I think the thing is really it all depends on who it's for, who you're selling to. I've got a friend who runs a sales business, sales agency business, and one of their major problems was they were selling to a lot of companies that were very focused on kind of female and less entrepreneurial female, more just females that wanted to have a little bit of additional income. And then all of these different people that they were bringing in from the marketing side were, young, aggressive bros. And it was just like they couldn't get a good message to market match. And then they just said, okay, you know what? We have to start recruiting people who are more like the audience we're serving. So they said, okay, we have to pick people who are not quite so young, a little bit older. We have to, hire more females than males, and just make sure there's more congruence between the people creating the message and the people actually consuming it. And sure enough, they've done that, and it's made a huge difference for them in a positive direction. So it's like hype can be great, skepticism can be great, logic can be great, empathy can be great, but it's all related to who is the audience, who's going to read this, who's going to buy it.
This makes a lot of sense. When you said that they want people working for them that resemble the target audience, because it's when you think about the customer journey from the beginning to the end, they're keeping the congruence in every aspect. And I've noticed with most of the, especially when it comes to the good coaching companies I've worked for, a lot of maybe the assistant coach or the main coach below the face of the business, a lot of times they would have 2 or 3 students. They did so well. They were like, why don't you come work for us?
Yeah.
And
it's a great strategy.
Yeah. And the same thing with, so my client who's in high ticket business space, his marketing director was first a student in his program. And because the guy is a really good media buyer, I think you know him, he's in Fast Forward. He's such a good media buyer. He started making so much money. And my client asked him, hey, like when they met in person just to chat, he's like, why don't you come do this for us? And he's not full-time, of course, but now he's the marketing director for the people who coached him. So it's also a great way for it to come full circle,
Mm-hmm. So Sava, like with you seem like you have like a pretty great lifestyle at this point, right? Like you've got a few part-time gigs that are long-term with companies who know you and trust you, so you don't have to kind of go out and pitch too much. You've got a very nice balance between free time. You make good money. Is there anything missing?
In terms of needs, no. Because no, not really. Not in terms of needs. It's more so about, because the last year was quite good. And, my parents are like, wow, you've done so much, da, da, da. And I would just, of course, I'm appreciative. I'm happy that I am where I'm at. But I would just tell everyone, I'm not peaking at 25 or 26.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I've been, when I started, when I found out about online marketing, I was thinking so much about, this number of dollars a month consistent. Now I'm almost double it. And I was like, if it only took me less than 5 years, then it's gonna be a joke for me to be 36 and be making the same, or
Absolutely.
making the same amount the same way. So I would say it's about really seeing my potential and what more I'm capable of. So yeah, what's missing is just I know I can do way more. That's it.
I
But
feel the same. I'm going to be 43 in a couple of weeks, and I feel like I'm just like here. And people like people's expectation is this kind of like 45-degree angle, but that's not reality. What I've seen from most of the people I know is that they go like here, some small amount of progress, and then at some point they go straight up or close to it
yep,
after they go through a lot of bullshit first.
same. But then you go, you do this and then like this, but then like that's it. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that's it. We're just getting started.
I feel it. I'm hoping to peak in my 60s or maybe even my 70s if I'm very careful about looking after my health.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Hey, and we talked about this off camera, but I saw some very nice pictures of you driving a Ferrari lately. Tell me about that experience.
Um, it was super awesome. Of course, it was a rental. So everyone who asked me, did you buy a Ferrari? Fuck no. It just, going in the mountains, just the roads, the Italian Alps,
Yes.
just top down, enjoying it. It's just, you're like, it's something you have to try. It I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be too dramatic and say I don't know how to describe it, but my car is a Honda Civic, and there's a big difference between a Honda Civic and a Ferrari in the
Yes.
Alps. It's just because you're like it does make sense. These cars are so expensive, but then you're behind the wheel, and you're like, man, life is so much cooler when you're in this car. It's like, yeah, it sounds superficial. Um, I did it because of the experience. I've been wanting to do it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoyed it. I'll do it again probably next year. Maybe one day I'll buy my own. But I think if you have the means, you have to see what's possible. Because this might sound, I don't know, maybe a bit stupid, but I know that there's people who are way more stupid than me, and they fly private everywhere. And I don't want to die without flying private at least once in my life.
Yeah. I mean, look, all of life is you
It
get
may be stupid. It's not like ultimate life goal, but it's one of these things that, man, like so many people do it. Like, why shouldn't you just try it? Why not?
there are so many experiences to be had in life, and a lot of them are gated away based on what your economic output is. And if you're actually able to get yourself to a place where your economic output gives you plenty of surplus, then why not spend some of that on having like wild experiences that you wouldn't otherwise get to?
Yeah, I think if you work hard, you deserve it. Of course, don't go overboard because you gotta be careful with hedonism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, man, if you've been thinking about something for a year, for example, with me, how I wanted to just rent a nice car, and I didn't think I was gonna rent a Ferrari, by the way. I just knew I wanted to be a sports car convertible. And if you think about it for a year, and Italy is 2 hour flight away, and you can do it, and it's not gonna, I don't need to get a loan from the bank for it or whatever. It's why not? Why not?
Awesome. No, I love it. I saw those pictures. I saw the like few Facebook stories, video clips. I was like, that looks like a hell lot of fun. And you look like you were having a really good time because it was you and your girlfriend, and there was something about like there was dust on the floor mats and she was shaking out the floor mat. That made me really
Oh,
laugh, like taking such nice care of it.
no, actually, it's a UK company
Hmm.
that gave me the car. They have different locations, and again, when it comes to expensive things being gated because they're expensive, and then when we talk about fulfillment and customer service, so they deliver the car in great condition, and then I'm returning it. I know I haven't scraped it anywhere, nothing, but then you see on the boot when you open it, like not where you have, let's say where you have like bumpers on the inside and protective elements, but just the paint on both sides of the boot. There was like friction and just paint peeling on two symmetrical parts. So it's not me putting luggage. I was like, ah, shit, there's like 1 inch on both sides. But, the guy took photos. He was like, we'll see what happens. And I think it's because of these cars, they have like a vacuum.
See you tomorrow. Okay.
These cars, they have vacuum to like close the doors, close the boot, whatever. And I think just the way it was built or something, it just causes the friction for the paint to peel. And I was like, oh, because the deposit for this car was double what I paid in rent.
Yes.
Rent as in to rent a car, not the rent of my place.
Yes.
I was like, oh shit, like maybe, maybe they might deduct, I don't know, 1K or 2K from the deposit. And then today I see that I check my account on my phone, like, oh nice, they released the deposit in full. And then I get an email, since you're a customer for the first time, we've decided to waive the cost of repair. And they're like, can you drop us a review? I'm like, fuck yes, I'm gonna drop you a review. Like, there's damage, maybe it's not for me, but it happened while I was with the car. It doesn't matter if that's how they produce the car. And like, I know they should charge me, maybe, but then like, oh, we decided to waive it. Because sometimes when you pay more for experience, people like on the other side, they're gonna use more common sense. This also counts because the experience gets better when it costs more. You appreciate it more, and the people on the other side, I know they're just smarter.
It's the long game as well. It's like,
Yeah.
so if there's somebody came in and was willing to spend a large amount of money with you once, the hardest time is the first time. They're very likely to come and spend it with you again if you just treat them well.
Yeah, next year, like I'm probably renting off of this same company again just because of this gesture.
Nice.
And I had found cheaper alternatives than this company, but I read some reviews. I saw that it's not, you don't just go to a parking lot to pick up an expensive car. Like, you have a driver waiting for you in front of the airport, like the entrance, with your name and everything. Like, something just told me that the service they offer, let's say the personal touch, is a bit better than just trying to find my car in a big ass rental parking lot.
Where did you put your suitcases?
Oh, they actually both were cabin size luggage, and they fit in the boot.
Okay,
Both.
so you thought ahead.
And they even fit with the top down too. It was
Awesome.
perfect. I was like, oh, there's a bench, like rear seats. Maybe we can put it there if it doesn't fit, but it fit perfect, like a glove. I'm like, man, that doesn't get better than that.
Beautiful. Sava, where can people find you if they want to connect with you online?
Just Facebook, Sava Nedev, or if they want Instagram, Savage Nedev. Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to put the links in the YouTube video, man. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation with you tonight.
me too, man. We should do it again.
We will. I'm going to post this up. I've actually collected a backlog of interviews. I've got like Troy Assignon, I've got Alex Gregoriades, I've got Eric Raum. Today I've got you. Tomorrow I'm talking to Mike Samuels. I
Really?
think, and yeah, and
Nice.
Jimmy, Jimmy, the guy who does all the funny ads.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he's a real. I have to think of his second name, but he's a really good. I think he's ex Agora as well, and he's now created this niche for himself where he did all these really good, funny, direct response kind of like local, like classified ads, but really long form ones, and he started using them on Facebook Marketplace with the place to sell all kinds of stuff, and like some of his ads went viral. And he's like now actually turned that into a service where he'll write these like real funny long form ads for people to sell things.
Nice. No,
Yeah, it's
I don't
cool.
think I know him, at least not by first name, but sounds cool. Definitely different than the industry, so to speak.
Then the N+1 high ticket coaching program.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks again so much, Sava. I really love this. I'm gonna say goodnight and stop the recording now. Any last words?
just keep doing great things, man.
Okay, you too.